Anytime I think of Tessa, I think happy thoughts. I remember her laugh. I remember her and her dreams. First time she got on a surfboard and stood up. She looked like a little stick, olive oil on a surfboard. You know, she's surfing in heaven, you know? She is. She's on a surfboard. So, it's the worst thing that ever happens in your life, losing a child. I just grabbed from the 16 years I had with her. The guy who killed my daughter ran into her at 70 miles an hour at a stoplight, Alfredo Ramos. After the investigation, we found out that he was here illegally. If we had done what the law says after he had his first DUI, his first felony, he wouldn't have been at that time and place, and those girls would have died.
This issue ties into a bigger picture, and the politicians have been slow to get it. We in Congress should wake up and listen to those who have been hurt by our failure to act.
And what I've read about you, you feel like I do. I have absolutely no animosity toward any particular group of people. I don't even have animosity for the guy who killed my daughter. He went to prison for 40 years. He killed 2 young girls. I'm not so sure he would have gotten that now. The executive orders, the inability to hold people past a certain point. Sanctuary cities do not feel that they must call ICE. That is what defines a sanctuary city, that they prevent the federal government from knowing the immigration status of their people.
We're not asking for anything radical. Asking for our police and sheriffs to follow the law of the land, and that's it. And if you did that, we'd avoid some of these tragic situations.
Right, which happen about once a day. I didn't really get active until I got some of the information from the police, and then I went to the trial. And after that, I thought, I'm going to be an activist. I'm at least going to get the word out about what happens and the pain that it causes if we don't have fairer immigration standards. It becomes more passionate when it's your family, it's your kid. I've met with 15 or 20 legislators. I've sat into 2 congressional hearings on immigration reform, told my story. This is the cost of not fixing the system. This is the cost.
You have different bonds with your children, you do. My bond with her was amazing. To have her in my life, I felt honored. Sarah was, oh my gosh, she was athletic, loved soccer, loved learning, was great in school, had graduated on January 30th with a bachelor's in criminal investigations. She worked hard, full-time job, went to school full-time, and still managed to carry a 4.0 and time for family and friends. She was the most kind-hearted person. The night that Sarah was killed, she was at 33rd and L, and there's a stoplight. The light was red. She had just started to go, it had turned green, when Mejia comes up over a little hill, racing another vehicle, and hits her at 70+ miles an hour. Omaha Police Department had been in contact with ICE, trying to get them to put a detainer on him. They had made several calls. They even hand-delivered fingerprints and other information to ICE directly, so there was no chance of anything getting lost in the shuffle. At no avail. The judge set the bond for vehicular homicide at $50,000 and 10%. Bonded out and never been seen since. No accountability for anything. He's on the run. $5,000, he's gone. 11 weeks after Sarah was killed, there was another illegal Honduran drunk driver that hit and killed another person. 11 weeks after this happened to Sarah in Omaha, Nebraska. This is not an isolated incident. There is never a second that goes by that, oh my God, I don't have a daughter anymore. I don't have my baby. It never gets any easier. It just doesn't.
You know, most people, even adults, don't see things in life or in the world like she did. Totally different than anybody I've ever met. When she walked in the room, you're just drawn to her. One of a kind.
In February 2015, 22-year-old Shaylee Estes offered a room to rent to a coworker who had just moved to Phoenix. Shortly after Russian national Igor Zubko moved in, they started dating, and Igor began pressing Shaylee to marry him. Igor's work visa had expired, and he saw marriage as a way to stay in the United States. Instead, Shaylee ended the relationship. Igor refused to move out, stopped paying rent, started drinking, and became violent.
She went down to the courthouse to file for a restraining order to get him removed from the house since he wouldn't leave. Here she is at the courthouse telling them his visa is expired and he's threatening my life. He's not supposed to be in our country and he's threatening my life. They gave her the order of protection, but never did anything for him being here illegally. Even the police, his name should have popped something up and said, he's not supposed to be here any longer. He's overstayed his visa. Instead of just going and serving him with this restraining order, we're going to pick him up.
Instead, on July 24, 2015, Igor waited with a gun he had purchased without an ID the day before. When Shaylee returned home from work, he shot her multiple times. Shaylee's roommate found her dead on the kitchen floor with gunshot wounds to the back, abdomen, and arms. Igor was arrested at the Phoenix International Airport and later pleaded guilty to Shaylee's murder.
Nobody knew that this person was here on an expired visa. Somebody did not do what they were supposed to do, because he shouldn't have been here to even do this to my daughter.
Examples of serious crimes by illegal aliens. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. All across the country, Americans are having their lives forever changed by criminal aliens. Watch the moving stories below. Tessa Tranken's story. Tessa Tranken, 16, was killed on March 30, 2007 in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Tessa and her friend, Ollie Cunhart, were sitting at a stoplight when Alfredo Ramos, an illegal alien from Mexico who was intoxicated and speeding, rear-ended their car. Rommel's had a history of prior convictions, but due to Virginia Beach's sanctuary policies, he was never detained. He was charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Sarah Root's story. Sarah Root, 21, from Omaha, Nebraska, was killed on January 31, 2016. Her SUV was rear-ended by Aswin Mejia, an illegal alien from Honduras, who was street racing. Sarah had just graduated from Bellevue University with a 4.0 GPA the day before she passed away. Omaha is in Douglas County, Nebraska, which has sanctuary policies that impede local law enforcement's ability to cooperate with ICE officers. Mejia was charged with motor vehicular homicide but posted bond to get out of jail and was released. He is still on the run. Shaylee's story. Igor Zubko, an illegal alien from Russia, killed Shaylee on July 24, 2015 in Phoenix, Arizona. Shaylee obtained an order of protection against Zubko just 10 days before her murder, but he entered her home and fatally shot her. Zubko entered the U.S. legally, but overstayed his visa and remained in the U.S. illegally. He is in police custody and faces first-degree murder charges. Tessa Trenk and Sarah Root. Shaylee Estes. More stories. Drew Rosenberg, 25. Drew Rosenberg. Roberto Gallo, an unlicensed driver from Honduras who entered the U.S. illegally but earned temporary protective status (TPS), killed Drew Rosenberg, a second-year law student, on November 16, 2010 in San Francisco, California. Rosenberg was riding his motorcycle when Gallo ran over him 3 times with his car. Gallo was convicted of vehicular manslaughter and sentenced to 6 months in jail. ICE refused to deport him and he was released after serving only 43 days. Thanks to the Rosenberg family's activism, Gallo was finally deported on April 4, 2013. The number one responsibility of the federal government is to protect the citizenry. We have been betrayed by successive administrations who have allowed campaign contributions and votes to supersede that responsibility, with the result being the deaths of tens of thousands of our loved ones. Don Rosenberg, Drew's father. Grant Ronbeck, 21. Grant Ronbeck Apolinar Altamirano, an illegal alien from Mexico, murdered Grant Ronbeck on January 22, 2015 in Mesa, Arizona. Ronbeck was shot over a pack of cigarettes while he was working his shift at a convenience store. Altamirano was out on bond from a previous conviction while ICE determined whether he should be deported when he killed Ronbeck. My son's death was completely preventable. Obama's immigration policies cost my son his life. Steve Ronbeck, Grant's father. Recommended fairish brief, criminal aliens. Chronology. Examples of serious crimes committed by illegal aliens. These cases are not representative of the illegal alien population in general, but demonstrate that better prevention of illegal immigration is a public safety issue. The following crime information is gathered from various news sources, and refers to crimes other than terrorism. The criminal aliens mentioned are all identified as being in the country illegally. Many of them had come into the hands of law enforcement agencies prior to the crime that is described, and were not deported, or in some cases, deported but re-entered the country. 20,162,015 Archive. October 2016, a previously deported illegal alien is jailed in Michigan after admitting to strangling his girlfriend. Raul Perez had been deported to Mexico in 2004 and again in 2005 after a judge found him guilty of illegal re-entry. He also had been in police custody 5 days before the murder for driving under the influence. The local authorities established his identity from his fingerprints. He was using an assumed name, but according to a news account, there was no request from ICE that he be detained, perhaps because he was detained on a weekend. ICE has now issued a detainer request for whenever Perez is released. Woods, Channel 8, Grand Rapids, Mich. September 2016, Cecil Burrows, an immigrant from India, is due to be deported following more than 3 years imprisonment for his involvement in orchestrating a gang rape in his home in 2012. Washington Post, September 25, 2016. September 2016, a British illegal alien, Michael Stephen Sanford, pled guilty in Nevada to possession of a gun that he tried to take from a policeman, and disrupting an official function, a campaign rally by GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. Sanford said he was attempting to kill the candidate. A psychiatrist found that Sanford was delusional, according to an AP report. Sentencing guidelines call for 18 to 27 months in prison. Daily News. September 13, 2016, August 2016, 2 Salvadoran illegal alien gang members were convicted of murder in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C. Jose Lopez Torres was convicted of a brutal stabbing death of another MS-13 gang member suspected of being an informer. He was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 20 years. According to the Washington Post, his conviction was part of a sweeping federal case against Northern Virginia members of the El Salvador-based gang, in which 6 defendants pleaded guilty and 6 more were found guilty at trial. The other just convicted Salvadoran was Jesus Alejandro Chavez, who was sentenced to 2 life terms, plus 10 years for 2 murders. Washington Post, August 11, 2016, July 2016, Mauricio Morales Caceres, an illegal alien from El Salvador, was sentenced in Montgomery County, Maryland to life in prison without parole for the stabbing death of another Salvadoran. Morales identified himself as an MS-13 gang member, and testimony indicated he had no remorse for his crime. Washington Post, July 15, 2016, June 2016, Heraldo Castillo Serrano, a Guatemalan illegal alien, was sentenced to 15 years in prison in Ohio for forced labor conspiracy, forced labor, witness tampering and encouraging illegal entry into the country. Castillo paid smugglers to smuggle teenage Guatemalan youth into the country under the promise of getting them into school and then put them to work as indentured servants in an egg farm. Fox News Latino, June 27, 2016. June 2016, a Mexican illegal alien, Juan Carlos Sepulveda Castro, was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison in Idaho for threatening people with an assault rifle. The news report notes that illegal aliens are prohibited from possessing a firearm. Pocatello TV Channel 8, June 2016, 11 illegal alien members of the Salvadoran MS-13 gang have been convicted of a series of crimes including murder. Jorge Enrique Moreno Aguilar, Juan Alberto Ortiz Aurelán and Minor Perez, all from Maryland, were convicted in mid-May of murder and conspiracy in a racketeering enterprise. MRC TV, May 24, 2016, New Jersey gang members Santos Reyes Villatoro, Mario Oliva, Roberto Contreras, Julian Emozi Aguilar, Hugo Palencia, Jose Garcia, Cruz Flores, and Esau Ramirez were convicted in late May in New Jersey of various murder, racketeering and firearms crimes. MRC TV, June 2, 2016, May 2016, illegal aliens, Reynal Vergara and Edson Benitez, pled guilty to second-degree murder for the death of a 90-year-old Minnesota man they beat and tied up while they stole from his home, leaving him to bleed to death. Breitbart News, May 11, 2016, April 2016, a Salvadoran illegal alien, Mauricio Morales Caceres, was convicted of first-degree murder in Maryland and sentenced to life imprisonment. Washington Post, April 30, 2016, March 2016, Juan Razo, a Mexican illegal alien living in Painesville, Ohio, agreed to plead guilty to a crime spree that included the shooting death of a 60-year-old woman, attempted rape of a 14-year-old girl, kidnapping and burglary. His plea was to avoid the death penalty and accept a life sentence. Cleveland.com, March 4, 2016, February 2016, 3 illegal aliens from Mexico were sentenced to federal prison for alien smuggling and illegally re-entering the U.S. after previous deportations. One man was sentenced to 57 months, another will serve 24 months, and the last man was sentenced to serve 12 months and 1 day in prison. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, February 2, 2016, January 2016, an illegal alien from Mexico was sentenced to nearly 6 years in prison after having been convicted for transporting illegal aliens, which resulted in the death of 2 illegal aliens. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, January 20, 2016,